edition of Uncensored. I am your host, Keith Andrew. Along here is Michael. I forgot your last name.
No worries. Roderick.
Roderick. Okay, let me do that again. Name's Keith Andrew. Welcome to episode 39. Today's guest is Michael Roderick, and I just want to say thank you for being a guest on my talk show.
Sure, not a problem.
Now, for people who want to know what Uncensored is, Uncensored is my way to show people that even with learning disability, I can still overcome controversy and reach my goals in life, and at the same time turning myself into a perfect example for people out there deaf, blind, or in a wheelchair, that you should never label yourself, and you should prove to people you can still mount to something, and that's the whole purpose of my talk show, just making a statement. Now, I'm going to ask you a lot of easy questions, and you're going to a lot of hard-hitting questions, but if there's anything passionate you want to talk about, or anything you want to talk about, you're more than welcome to. So I don't want people to think it's one-sided. You can ask me anything, you can curse if you want to. So starting off, what can you tell me about yourself?
Sure. Well, I started out as a high school English teacher, and I taught for about 8 years, and during that time I got involved in the theater world, and I eventually ended up becoming a Broadway producer. And while I was doing some of that work, I started getting more involved in the sort of networking education side of things, and now I basically teach people about networking and leveraging their relationships, building those relationships over time, and things of that nature.
How did you become a school teacher?
I went to school specifically for it. So I was secondary in English and theater performance were the two majors that I had.
Do you miss it?
Sometimes. I think that I'm still teaching people, whenever I'm doing either coaching work or whether I'm working with small groups, I'm still teaching. I'm just not teaching 33 kids at a time. You know what I mean? I'm either teaching one-on-one with adults for the most part, or I'm speaking to a room of 15, 20 people, sometimes larger crowds, depending on what I'm being asked to speak about. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I noticed on your profile that you have your own company. Mm-hmm. What can you tell us about that?
Sure. So what I started to notice was that a lot of people were interested in learning more about relationship strategy and kind of figuring out how do they get to the next level in their career. So I had a lot of people asking me questions about that and asking me about sort of how do I get to this point where I'm able to get these introductions or connect with these types of people. And I found that I was saying a lot of the same things, so eventually I said, why don't I just create a company around these ideas and start teaching people and really going into other companies and working with them and seeing what I can do.
All right, how many years have you had your own company for?
I've had this company, it's had a lot of different versions of it, but I've had this company for about 10 years.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Thanks.
Now, like I said, you can ask me anything you want. It's uncensored. You can curse if you want to. So I don't want people to think it's one-sided. But I'm gonna ask you I can't even speak. I'm gonna ask you a lot of hard-hitting questions, and
okay.
If there's anything you want to pass on, you can just say pass. But
sure.
Recently, I've been asking people, what motivated you to start your own company, and what motivates you in life?
Sure. I think for me, I think the answer is very similar to a lot of other entrepreneurs, which is you kind of realize at some point in your life that you're just not going to be a very good employee. You look at sort of the idea of having a boss and having somebody who you're reporting to, and you just decide, it's not really going to be a fit for me, or I'm not going to be the best at just sort of putting my head down and doing exactly what everybody else wants me to do. So I think that was sort of the major thing. I realized, I could sort of climb the ladder in terms of education. I could have gotten, become a vice principal or a principal or a superintendent or any number of those things. But ultimately, I still would have had a boss, you know what I mean? I still would have had somebody telling me what to do. So I said, you know what? I don't think I want to do that. I figured, strike off on my own, see what I can make happen.
Yeah, it's funny when you mention Superintendent. You're a Simpson fan, right?
Uh-huh.
Every time I hear Superintendent, I think of the episode where Ralph calls Principal Skinner Skipper, and it says,
Yep.
"Hi, Principal Skipper. Hi, Super Nintendo Charmers."
That is true.
Or whatever Simpson moments do you remember about your favorite?
Oh wow. I think the one where it was a Halloween episode, and Bart says something along the lines of, I'm going to tell you a story so scary you're going to pee your pants. The grandfather says, "Too late." And they all sort of like move over. I love that one. I think that's really funny.
Well, what's your opinion on the Simpson movie? Do you think they're gonna make? There's a rumor of them making a second one. Do you think that's really true, or do you think once was enough?
I think once is probably enough. I don't think they're going to get any more sort of traction out of it, because a lot of the time when those series, they create a movie, it's like they do something really big in the movie. That's the idea of sort of having the movie. They go to Hollywood, or they do something that's really, really substantial. And if you try to do it again, I feel like it's just kind of kicking a dead horse,
That's true. How do you feel about the Transformer movies? Or what movies do you think were a good idea at the time, but when you actually saw it didn't live up to the hype?
Think of what... Well, I think that Marvel had a couple of significant mess-ups when it came to the Hulk movies. I feel like it took them quite some time to get that franchise sort of correct, right? A lot of those movies were really, really bad. I mean, there was one where they had like mutant poodles and stuff. It was just not very well thought out. And I think, depending on the types of people that you're trying to get in those roles and the types of CGI, there are a lot of things that kind of fall by the wayside. I also think that when you've seen something as a kid, or if you've read something as a kid, you follow the comic books, you go through that process, you have your own sort of version in your mind of what you think it's going to be. So it's very difficult for the movie to live up to that, and I think that that's usually the question a lot of folks have with movies, is that they get to it and they're like, well, that wasn't really like what I pictured in the book, but ultimately you can't really have what you pictured in the book.
That's true. And I don't know if you heard this, but there is going to be a new Mighty Morphin Power Ranger movie.
Oh yes, yeah. I feel like isn't it going to be something along the lines of like it's a fan-based thing? Like it's not actually a studio isn't producing it, right?
No, it's just a fan made.
Yeah, it got crowdfunded. Because I think my friend Dina's in that, if I'm not mistaken, who I went to college with. I'm pretty sure I saw something on her Facebook about that, or something like that. But it's pretty funny that they're gonna do that on sort of a larger scale. Because again, that show was like the definition of low budget, right? Like, because like everybody looked like they were wearing like cardboard boxes and costumes that they got from the dollar store. It's like hilarious.
One thing about the Power Ranger movie, the first one, I think the original 5 should have been there. I didn't really care for the ones that took over afterwards. But if you're gonna do a movie right, you might as well do it right. You give it justice, not just like with Iron Man 3. You watch the trailer. Well, I know for me, I was like, oh, I can't wait to see this movie. It's gotta be fucking awesome. And by the way, it's uncensored. You can curse if you want to. It's gotta be freaking great. And you saw the movie, and it's like, what the hell is this? They butchered the Mandarin. Oh, I'm just an actor. I'm not really the Mandarin. It's like, what? In that case, you could have picked somebody else and butchered it. But, if I said in my last interview, I think I was interviewing Richard Epcar, or I was interviewing my friend Ron Reisman. If you know Ron Reisman, he's the music producer from Power Rangers.
Oh,
and
okay.
Richard Epcar does the Joker from Injustice.
Oh, cool.
And they both said they agreed with me. If you're going to do something right, you might as well do it right. Don't do it half-ass.
Yep, it can be difficult.
Now, when you started your company, did you get a lot of criticisms, or?
I don't know if I would say criticisms. I think that there's always going to be people, regardless of whatever you're deciding to do, there's always going to be people who are going to be like, I don't know if that's the best idea, or I don't know if there's really a market for that, or I don't know how you're going to sell that. You get a lot of people saying things like that. But for the most part, I found that I had a pretty good network of people who were supporting me in the work that I did as I was getting started, and then it just kind of grew from there.
Well, I do have a couple of ideas for you, but I'll mention it off the show if you don't mind.
Sure.
But going to the hard-hitting questions, where do you stand on... Well, I'm going to ask you everything... excuse the dog barking in the background. I was going to say, with everything going on Fox News, with the kids crossing the borders, how do you feel about that?
I think that there's a lot of different takes that people have on these things. I think also Fox News has a way of presenting their information that's very, very different in terms of just the slant and the style. So I kind of am always in this place of I'm not really quite sure what to trust when either somebody's sort of reporting in that area or whatever, because I've heard a lot of things not necessarily working. And you can hear my dog in the background too. I think he thought he had a friend. Is that right, Patrick?
I think it was either CNN or ABC News where they were doing a story about, the war in the West and was Iraq and the Pakistanis. And they were doing it from their point of view, and they're trying to guilt trip us, like saying, well, we're the bad guys, and it's like, it's they fucking attacked us, and you're doing it like we're the bad guys?
I think, news has that tendency. I think that a lot of the time people look at news as a way to get attention, so they're always going to try to have a slant, because if they were just trying to do it completely even, you wouldn't have people polarized, right? You wouldn't have people being like, oh no, that's not true, or oh, that is. It's kind of like movies, right? We don't go and watch a movie of like somebody going through their day and like having their coffee and walking the dog and doing all this other stuff. We go to the movie because this person, like, a building blew up next to this person, or whatever the sort of extreme situations are. So I think that news follows a very similar path, and because you're dealing with those extremes, people start saying, oh, well, you know what, I really believe in this, or I really believe in that, and then they cite the news as their way of backing it up. But ultimately, it's kind of like, well, we all have our own perceptions of these things and our own way of viewing these particular points, and the news can either fuel that or cause us to be more frustrated,
Alright, the next question I was going to ask you, where do you stand on the console war? I know we had Nintendo versus Sega, and now Nintendo bought Sega. Are you an Xbox person, or are you a PlayStation person?
I've actually never been a video game person at all. Interestingly enough, I think when I was fairly young, I had a Nintendo. But I mean, we're talking like old school, like Duck Hunt and Meteoroid and all that other crap, right? So I never actually did any of the big. I never sort of stepped it up. Like, I never ended up having any of these consoles, and even now, I don't really care about that stuff. I know that a lot of people love video games and really sort of get into that world. It's just never been an interest of mine, and I've never really been excited about doing it. You know what I mean? Like, somebody's like, oh, do you want to play a video game, or you want to play Xbox, you want to play whatever? I'm kind of like, okay, I'll do that for a couple of minutes, or whatever time it takes to play the game against you, but you're probably going to beat me, and I don't really care. I think some folks get like really, up in arms about this stuff, and I'm like, it does not matter to me. There's just way more important things to think about sort of in my world at this point.
All right, well, one more easy question. Are you a professional wrestling fan, or you outgrew it?
I think I watched it when I was in grade school. So I don't watch any. I don't watch any professional wrestling anymore. I was probably like 5th or 6th grade when I used to watch like Ultimate Warrior and Macho Man Randy Savage and all those folks. And I knew somebody who did a lot of the choreography for that kind of stuff. So they would explain to me like how it was being done, and I remember as a younger kid basically being like really thinking it was real for a long time, and then realizing they're just, it's all rigged and this is a show and everything. But I don't watch it anymore.
Well, the only thing I would say is, unfortunately, most of our people we grew up, Randy Savage, Ultimate Warrior, Owen Hart, Chris Benoit, they passed away, so it's kind of depressing. We grew up in the golden age when wrestling was good, and we kind of just have, like the TV show, The Leftovers.
Yep.
But I would say, thank God the women got better.
Yeah.
There's no comparing. You cannot compare Gail Kim, Trish Stratus, Nuita to Fabulous Moolah and Mae Young. Ugh. This is terrible. Alright, now to the hard-hitting question. So like I said, you can pass on the ones you don't want to answer. People like this one. Where do you stand on legalizing marijuana?
Legalizing marijuana? I think if it's gonna help you, why not? You know what I mean? If it has medicinal effects, and if it's gonna really help you get better, I see no reason to worry about it. You know, I think there's way more dangerous things out there that we should be, getting concerned over. So I don't really, for me, I'm like, it doesn't really matter. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
No, I agree with you. And first off, God grows it, so if God grows it, it can't be that bad.
Sure.
It's proven to help people with memory loss. It doesn't cause any diseases, as far as we know of. And it's better than smoking and drinking. Drinking causes liver damage. Smoking causes tumors and cancer. What does smoking weed do? Absolutely nothing. May give you the ability to think you can fly, to see rainbows, but it doesn't kill you or anything. If anything, it improves your memory. Alright, well, I think it should be legalized, but anything's taxable. When they do tax up, and they think, and the biggest thing is they won't tax it because the people in Mexico and the cartels are going to lose business, and they're going to go up their game to another drug. So people always look for the next best thing.
Sure. Makes sense.
Alright, now, is there any subjects that you feel passionate about? Is there anything that pisses you off, that gets you fired up?
That's interesting. I'm a fairly even keel person. It's rare that you're going to get me like really, really mad. I get very frustrated with folks who are really rude. I honestly believe that there's actually no reason to be rude. I've never been able to sort of wrap my mind around it when somebody's just absolutely obnoxious to somebody else. That's always been a huge issue of mine. And I kind of look at it as, I think that we're all just people, so why be obnoxious to somebody just because, you either think that you're, you get people, they think they're above you, they think that they know more than you, or whatever the case is. And I'm just very much on the level of like, I want us to look at each other as people as opposed to like categories and numbers and credits and all these all these different things that we use. Like, we spend a lot of time ranking the crap out of everybody, and ultimately, like, we're all getting up, going through our day. We're all dealing with our own issues and problems and successes and all these different types of things. So it's like, why treat somebody poorly? It just doesn't make sense to me.
That's true. I did come up with a concept, a while ago. I'll tell you the story about my company. It's not company, network. I started my talk show a year ago, and I came up to 72 interviews. I interviewed from people from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers to Dragon Ball Z and Spider-Man. Unfortunately, it wasn't like this. That was my mistake. Don't ask me why. That was my own stupidity. And so at the time, it's like, people are saying, why aren't you as big as you say you are? Why don't you have supporters? Why don't you have sponsors? And those same people or sponsors I found saying, okay, if we're going to work with you, tell us your audience. I have an audience? I know people watch my stuff. I really don't follow that. Because my friend told me, if you try to just do things to get an audience, you make yourself crazy because the numbers go up, the numbers go down, and it's really not dependable. And so I redid my talk show, and that's what you're part of, and I'm very thankful for that. And I noticed, I have, last time I checked, it was about 45% female audience, 15% young audience, because I did a lot of fan-made Dumbo, Jumble Book, cartoon, fan-made videos, tribute videos. And the mentioned Power Rangers, I get that in a couple of minutes. And I was like, well, I need something to get the male audience, because I know eventually that question's got to come up. What are you doing for the male audience? And a while ago, I came up with the idea. It's like, well, it is the summer. Might as well, you probably know where this is going. Might as well use that for my advantage. So I said, hey, how about asking a couple of good-looking women to do the interview while wearing their bikinis or something.
All right.
Yeah, I was like, hey, it's a summer thing, and then I don't want people to think I'm sexist or anything. So then for September, October, could be like a Halloween theme. November, December could be a Christmas theme. So it is the idea from that to just do themes. Unfortunately, I haven't found anyone who... Everyone's like, oh, you're kidding, right? Or, oh, well, what a perv he is. It's like, I'm not doing this to be a jack-off. I'm trying to get people talking, get hits. It's like, the only hits you're gonna get is a slap in the face.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things where there's a lot of sensitivity around that. If you're asking somebody to present themselves in that way, for many of them they feel like it's objective. It's being objectified, right? So it's like the interview doesn't matter. The way that they look matters. You know what I mean? So you can see, I can definitely see why some folks would be frustrated with that, or not feel it's the it's the best use of their time in terms of an interview, because they might feel like, well, what does it matter what I'm answering? I could be telling you anything. The only reason I'm on here is because I look like this and I'm wearing this. You know what I mean? I think that's probably one of the issues that that you run up against. I think, when you're thinking about content, it's more about, are you asking questions and getting people to have interesting conversations off of the content that you create, and your audience starts to sort of form itself, and you'll start to notice that certain people watch certain things more often than others, and as you start to see that, you say, okay, here's my email, tell me, what you like, and tell me what you don't like, tell me what your interests are, and then you can start to figure out, like, okay, it looks like a lot of people want to hear more about this, or it looks like nobody actually wants to hear about this, and then you can start to shift and adjust, and eventually you start to find a very, very core audience that's just really into the kind of interviewing that you're doing and the kind of work that you're doing.
Well, one thing I would tell you, and if people notice from my interviews, I came up with a group of questions just for the girls, and it was one group of questions on the guys. I didn't want to ask, well, I'm going to ask you, like, stuff about the people using the race card and gay rights and all that, but that's the same. But in the beginning, when I said I'm going to ask you a lot of easy questions, there's difference. I asked the girls, did they do sports? Did they do the pyramid stuff? And for the guys, I just keep it basics. What can you tell me about your company? Did you do sports? And I'm going to ask you, after I mentioned that, did you do any sports in high school? Were you like a star athlete, or?
I was not at all. My high school was very focused on athletics. They had a lot of really solid, teams, but that was not my jam. That was not my thing. I did a lot of acting and I did a lot of writing. I sang in a band. I did all the stuff that you don't normally do in the in sort of the sports world, right? And I think the only time I ever played sports was I think it was grade school. I played basketball for a little while, and that just went horribly. So I was like, all right, this is not a fit for me, and I just kind of went on my way, if you will.
Well, you mentioned you were in a band, or are you still in a band, or is that past tense?
No. When I was in high school, I decided to start a band and sing in a band, and it's just one of those things that you do when you're in high school, right? You come up with something silly that you want to do with your friends, and you do it. So we had a couple of gigs, we did a couple of shows, and it was fun. We did a fundraiser for our school's English department. We did a fundraiser for a couple of different programs and things like that. And then we when it was time to go to college, the band broke up, and we just sort of went our separate ways.
Ever think of doing like a one-night stand with your band, and not in that type of way, but like a reunion?
Like a reunion tour. I don't think I think maybe one person is still a musician, like a real musician. I think everybody else went off and decided to do other things.
All right. Well, like I said, if you have any questions for me, I don't want our listeners to think it's one-sided. But what's everything going on in the technology world? Do you think things gotten better? Do you think things got, this is great, but things taken out of proportion? What do you think about the whole technology?
I think technology has advanced in a significant way. I think it's helping us a lot. I think one downside that we have is that there's so much online communication available to us now that we're not spending as much time in offline communication. So you'll literally see kids sitting next to each other and they're texting each other, and when you see what they're texting, they're talking to each other, but they're not actually physically talking to each other. So I think that one of the downsides is that a lot of these advancements in technology has had an adverse effect on the way that we handle each other socially and the way that we look at each other socially. But I do think that there's been a lot of amazing advances in technology, and a lot's happening in the medical space, a lot's happening in the education space. There's a lot of really good stuff happening as well. So I think you just, like anything else, you just got to figure out sort of where do you devote your time and what do you do with those pieces.
No, I agree, and I'd tell you a funny story. There's this video, you can look it up on YouTube. I think it's called Creepy Japanese Guys, and they don't speak to girls. They walk around on their own devices, I think iPhones or something, and they have virtual girlfriends. And this was actually an interview, you may have saw it, where they said they prefer virtual reality girlfriends over having an actual girlfriend. And I was like, that's a perfect example of stupidity right there.
Yeah, it's when you sort of look at technology, technology can present to somebody what an ideal for them is, right? And if they want the ideal, then they're losing sort of what the social implications are of having something that's not ideal, right? It's much easier to work with somebody who's agreeing with everything that you're saying. That doesn't necessarily mean that your business is going to grow or your opportunities are going to grow or things are going to get better if everybody's kind of yesing you to death, right? You need people to be able to say, oh, well, no, I don't agree with that, or I don't think that's a good idea, in order to be able to grow and think about things in a different way.
You know, like the WWE, there's this one person, you know, the owner of the WWE has a bunch of yes people kissing his ass, and, you know, I would just tell him the truth. You know, what do you think of this idea? Ha ha ha. I think that idea sucks. Oh, you're fired. But like you said, you can't have a bunch of people yesing you to death, because you need to have a stimulus conversation, and that's how you need competition. And, you know, like, I'll give you a perfect example. There's, like, I guess you can say during the media, you know, Fox News versus CNN, or they're fighting against ABC or NBC, or that's pretty much the same thing. There has to be competition, and there's football versus baseball, who's better, even though you can't really compare the two. If you remember, the WWF took on WCW, they were great because they were competition based. Unfortunately, Vince McMahon bought out all his competition, and when you don't have competition, you get bored and stale. And now what you see is WWE versus TNA, and they're just copying each other. It hurts the fans and it hurts the business, because what happened to that creativity there was in the 80s and 90s? Now it's just the same old bullshit on only a different channel.
That's true. It's definitely true, and I see it in a lot of different industries. You know, people get complacent. They get happy with sort of like, okay, this is where it needs to be, and we're fine with this, and then no new ideas or concepts should come in. They really kind of like step away from all of that, and yeah, they don't grow as much because of that. You've got to be able to look at different viewpoints. You've got to be able to allow others to contribute their creativity into your life. You know,
I'll give you a perfect example. If Nintendo wanted to boost its sales again, they should go back to the cartridge or keep the CDs. You know, you get a lot of memory on CDs, but remake the games from the past. Bring back Duck Hunt. Bring back Super Mario World. Bring back the N64 games. And I tell you, die-hard fans will buy that shit up in a heartbeat. I know I would. I know you would. But
there you go.
I know you have to look at the big picture. Yeah, one thing on interviews they ask me, and it really annoys me, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And my dad jokes around, he says, you should just say, see myself in 5 years on a beach with a beer in my hand. But
there you go.
when I'm by myself, like, say if you're interviewing me, or I'm interviewing you, and you say, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And you're like, oh, well, I see myself doing this. How are you exactly giving the right answers? What is the right answer to that?
Yeah, you never know. You really never know. 'Cause you never know what life's going to throw at you. You never know what new variables are sort of going to come into the equation. You look at your life, and there's so many places where you could make one choice or another, and whichever choice you've made sends you down a completely different path. So, you can say, oh yeah, I'll be doing this in 5 years, this is what I'm expected to be doing in 5 years, but if one element of tomorrow changes, you may not be doing that in 5 years, and that's just the way life is.
Alright, well, we're wrapping up. Do you have any funny stories you like to share, or, like I said, any subjects or questions you like to ask?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if I definitely can't think of any funny stories. So you said you've done 70 something of these?
72 interviews, but they're all audio clips. That was my mistake.
Gotcha. And now, are you doing videos now?
Yep. I'm redoing season 1 as in just videos.
Gotcha. And how many videos have you done at this point?
38.
38. Okay, that's really good. That's really good. And are they hosted only on your website, or are they also hosted on like YouTube and Tumblrs and all those other platforms?
Pretty much on YouTube, on my website, KeithAndrewNetWork.com, and we'll be on Facebook, LinkedIn. It's just anywhere I can get space.
There you go. That's fantastic.
Well, wrapping up, do you have anything you want to say to your fans and listeners, or any words of wisdom?
I think the main thing that I'd say is just consistently treat people like people. Really think about what do other folks need help with, and do everything you can to be as helpful to them as you can. You can have, Zig Ziglar is very famous for saying, you can have anything in the world that you want if you help enough other people get the things that they want, and it's just get out there and be helpful and build relationships, and a lot of cool stuff happens.